Let me just turn up my volume here. Hi, Julie, Catherine, and Heidi. You guys are on the ones on Zoom, and there's a group here in person. So we'll get started. So we have here today, you can't see them on camera, but we have Freya, Abby, and Kayla from Active Minds. Maybe I'll just do the old-fashioned wave low. And then we have other members of the collective here, and we're going to turn it over to Active Minds to talk about the VAR program. Is that right? Okay, great. So if you have, I'm going to have my volume down on my computer. So if you have any questions or comments through Zoom, put them in the chat, please. So we don't have too much feedback, like audio feedback.
Hi, I'm Abby. I was the vice president of Active Minds. We just transitioned over to the exec board. I'm a senior, and I've been the vice president.
Hold on. Can you guys not hear her? Okay. Try again.
I'm not muted.
Maybe it's just, I don't know why it wouldn't be working, but you want to just try again?
Sure. Hi, I'm Abby. I'm a senior. I'm the vice president of Active Minds. We just transitioned over to the exec board, and I've been the vice president since my freshman year.
I'm Freya. I'm the to a new exec board. I apologize if I have a slight cold, so like my throat's a bit off. But yeah, so to talk about VAR, we started the main program that Active Minds has been pushing since 2019, which stands for Validate, Appreciate, Refer. So these are like applications we're going to go through what this means and what you can use it for.
So just a little bit about Active Minds. It's a mental health organization. It's a national thing, and we are actually a national chapter. We are recognized, and it's a nonprofit organization that supports mental health awareness and education materials for young adults. There's 800 high school and college campuses involved, or some fraction of, in workplaces, communities, and through a vast public audience. It's known, Active Minds creates communities of support and helps save lives.
So VAR essentially is not going to stand for validate. So let someone know that they're appreciating, that you hear what they're saying, and that you're there for them. And then appreciating, so just letting you know that they did the right thing by coming to you and letting you know that what they said to you is something that is completely valid. And then referring to them. So this can mean a bunch of different things. Referring them can be just literally saying, hey, do you want to go get ice cream, or do you need for coffee? Kind of just following up with them and letting you know, like, you're still there. This wasn't kind of a one-time thing. For more serious situations, you know, like, hey, like, have you ever considered speaking to a therapist or going to the wellness center or any of those types of things, or even giving like a phone number of like a crisis hotline or any of those. So all of these can come in slightly different forms depending on the situation, of course. But it's kind of a very simple acronym for what to do in a situation where you're not really sure how to provide support for someone. And there's a lot of things also that are good things to say, as well as things that you shouldn't really say to someone's situation that a video we will show later on will go into.
So why VAR? As we know, 1 in 5 adults have a diagnosable mental illness, and that number is sadly only going up. and 50% of us will experience like a mental health issue of some sort in our lifetime. Again, that number is only going up every year, so this is incredibly important for people to understand. And 100% of us can be equipped to respond when someone is having a bad day. So VAR, while it seems a little simplistic, it is the first step into showing people how to respond to things, because a lot of people in times of crises aren't really sure where to begin.
Just like I was gonna do, like those stats are from 2019, so that doesn't include anything that came out of the pandemic, so they're probably a lot higher than that. So sharing a story, all the time, just like break the ice by like sharing why I ended up joining Active Minds and becoming president, kind of why I think this initiative is really important, kind of why we go around sharing it. I had a lot of like mental health stuff going on. I find that I've been really grateful that I struggle a lot less with now, but like I had a lot of stuff going on my freshman year of high school where I had to go on medical leave from my school for a few days until like I was clinically cleared by a psychologist to basically say like I would go back to school having no harm to myself. And that was really hard on like my family and my friends as well, because like I just didn't really feel like I was in a community that I belonged in. And I kind of kept that feeling throughout high school, but I just kind of learned how to deal with it, which is really sad. So coming to a college, I really wanted to find somewhere where I felt like I would have some belonging, in a place where like I kind of knew I'd make a change. And mental health, and I've never really thought it out or felt like that clear, and it's something I definitely do want to continue making an impact on in like when I leave here, especially the senior now, thinking about that in my career path. So for me, that's like it's really important. It's about kind of what are simple things that everyone can do to make an impact in a simple way. And I think VAR is really important because anyone can do it. You don't have to be licensed to kind of be there for someone.
Normally we would sit here and talk about like personal mental health experiences that we have all shared, but because considering this is recorded, we are not going to do that today just for confidentiality reasons. So here's a quick little video that we are going to show. I think I need to turn my phone.
Hey, has this ever happened to you?
Nope. Nope. I'm not sure. Yes. It's going to a good sound. No, definitely not. Can we do subtitles? Nope. Technical difficulties, everyone. Don't know how to work
Does
this
anybody
thing.
have any how-to knowledge of this?
Is the volume up like on the actual projector? Because like that could be a problem. Like if that volume's off.
Oh, gee. No. There's nothing really else I can do.
Yeah. Do you want to just play it?
It talks without subtitles though.
I know, but can we listen to it like through
I
your?
have to unplug,
Oh, sure.
which it still records the Zoom.
Yeah.
It just.
So we can play the sound off my laptop.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go for it.
Okay.
Has this ever happened to you? Since this is actually having a time, I'm feeling really anxious, overwhelmed. It sounds like more than that. Probably is. So is it okay to start a conversation with your friend? Listen using VAR. Validate, appreciate, refer. VAR. An easy way to let someone know it's okay to not be okay. And you are not alone. Here's how it works. Validate the feelings. It's okay, and then you leave them. It sounds like I'm sorry. I'm struggling. Let's deal with it. Feelings are always valid. Hey, speaking of it can be hard. It's not easy to admit you're struggling. So much for telling me. Say, so glad you here for you. If you want to talk or need anything, show that you're there to support them. Let them know you care. Refer them to skills and support. Sometimes
Okay.
what a person needs is someone to listen.
Video is this
Though
like on
sometimes
YouTube that I could
they
send
need
it
more.
in the chat?
Yeah, I can
Refer
give you
sounds
a
like
link to it and there's a password.
want to take a break from studying and go watch a movie. I've been using this meditation app. It's really helped me slow down my thoughts. Can we make plans to go on a run together tomorrow? I think it might be helpful to talk to someone. Can I go with you? Show that help is available and that you're with them. Could it be that easy? Yes. VAR conversations can start in any order. Take any form. Phone, in person, text message, even FaceTime. There's no exact right thing to say. In fact, most of us are afraid of saying the wrong thing, so we end up saying nothing at all. Always assume you're the only one who's reaching out. You know that it's not the exact words that count as much as your presence. Listening, connecting, accepting. You can make a generous and empathetic choice to be there, and could be making all the difference in the world for your friend. Are there things not to do or say? Yeah. Be aware that these aren't really helpful. Saying, it's fine, you'll get over it. Offering tips to fix them. Saying, don't be so emotional, you're so dramatic. Or, man up. Minimizing or comparing how your friend feels by looking for something positive in their situation. Such as, well, at least assuming everyone experiences the same condition in the same way. Just be yourself. One therapist compares it to being a dolphin swimming alongside. Guide your friend with a helpful nudge and be on the journey with them. Remember, you don't have to be an expert to help. You don't even have to understand what your friend is going through. Just show you care. That's what it's all about.
So that's just like a quick little video that kind of shows. Again, it's very simple, and I think that's the best part about it because, again, a lot of people don't know the immediate thing of what they should be doing. It's like, oh, I think you immediately need, like, we need to go talk to someone, and that can like stress a lot of people out. And I think validating it is probably one of the most important things you can do because it shows them that someone is aware and someone understand. They might not understand, but they understand that you are going through something and that it's okay to be going through that thing. And as I said, like, you don't need to be an expert to help. We are not mental health professionals, but there are things you should and should not say. Minimizing what they're thinking about is definitely not the best course of action because then they may never go and help. You really just need to be there. And even if they don't need to like speak about it, they just need to be like in the presence of someone or something. That's also great too. Or even just like walking with them to the wellness center for their first therapy appointment. You don't need to stay, you don't need to be in there, but just showing them that you are with them on whatever journey they need to take is a really powerful thing. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple of questions like, or a couple based on what we spoke about, but was there kind of a time that you were going through something and someone said something that you really needed to hear? What was it that they said that helped and what did it feel like?
Can you say that again?
Yeah, so was there a time that someone said something helpful to you that you really needed to hear? What was it that they said they helped and what did it feel?
Yeah, it helps in both for better about it.
For sure.
I think also the second round of my last night with some of my roommates, I was just like having a lot to do, nothing that like necessarily that extreme, but I was like explaining a situation that like run through my day. And my friends were just like, wow, that's like a lot. That's tough. And I was like, yeah, it was. So it kind of was like kind of like the validation of I wasn't sharing what I wanted to share with them because I was looking for an answer or because I was wanting them to fix anything. I just wanted a pair of ears and I to begin with, felt comfortable sharing too. And they kind of were like, yeah, that's really sucky. I'm sorry you had to go through that. And I was like, yeah, well, thanks for being an outsider who also could relate to me. So that was good.
That's a perfect example of like a validation type thing, because you're aware that it's a lot, but sometimes it's nice to hear that like you're not making a mountain out of a molehill. Like it's nice for you to hear that like, oh, other people also think that this is a lot.
And I wanted them to be like, it does suck. Like I like, it's like, I feel like part of, there's like kind of like a stigma or just like a hesitation to acknowledge that what someone's going through is what it is kind of thing. Because it kind of, is there, can be hurt or come across like it's being insensitive to acknowledge what someone's going through. But it's like, for me, at least in that moment, I was like, no, I really appreciate someone that like for people that I trust as well in that situation to be like, no, you're right. Like that does suck. I would be, feel similarly because, it didn't make me feel any worse than I was before. If anything, it made me feel like the video was sharing, like, not alone.
I think it's like what you both said too, like it just shows you have a support system there. It's kind of reminds you of that, but just, yeah, being there.
My husband once said to me, because I'm like a fixer, so I want to fix everything in everyone's world. And he said, I don't need you to fix this. I just need you to hear it.
Mhm.
And that was super helpful.
Because again, we are not mental health professionals, like, we can't fix, we can help, and we can listen, and we can steer in the right direction, but we can't fix. Like, that is not something that is in our repertoire of tools, and I think once you understand that, and that's a very hard thing to understand, because you want to fix the problem for your friends and the people you care about, but once you do understand you can't fix, I think that makes you an even better person to come talk to, because they realize that you're not going to immediately try to fix the conversation, they just needed someone to sit there.
Also, it's like the physical presence. Like I think presence does a lot, even if it's silent, verbally. Physical presence, I think, can bring the type of comfort that a lot of other like verbal tools and stuff aim to do. I can't really do it.
I think self-relations too, but I saw something the other day, it was about, like maybe asking your friends, like, do you have the mental space, like, for me to talk to you about something right now, just before you, like, let something onto them, in case, like, they're going through something themselves, like, they can't provide you the support they need, because sometimes, like, they can't validate you or, like, appreciate you in those types of senses, and I feel like that can sometimes be even rougher than, like, saying things in all, for them just to shrug it off and be like, I can't deal with this right now, so that was something I found I thought really for this.
Can I ask a question? Maybe you guys will get to this, but in mindfulness training, one of the things that we talk about is to remind ourselves that like this is not dangerous, or like when we're having an emotional or stressful response to something, like this is not a dangerous situation, or I can handle this. How does that like jive with the like not minimizing?
Are you talking about as someone going through it specifically, or someone trying to help another person?
I think either. Like an example is my 6-year-old will get like super emotional and like have a crying attack because he has the wrong placemat, right? And like that's big in his world, but it's not dangerous. So I struggle with like, do I talk to him about that, or am I minimizing what's big in his world? Do you know what I'm saying? I'm like,
Yeah.
does anyone have like a college age like example?
I guess maybe college age would be the fact that we think like one grade is gonna matter so much at the end of the day when it really doesn't. It's really small, but in the moment it seems big. So I feel like for that, it's like you wouldn't tell someone, oh, don't worry, it won't matter at the end of the day. But like feel like that's really validating, like, oh, you're right to feel this way. I wouldn't say like there's no way to like make it right. Like, sure, in that case, I guess you can pick the right place now, but kind of just being a support system in a way.
Yeah.
I guess for that.
I also think, very importantly, and that's not something super talked about in these videos, is letting people have their immediate emotional response. If you try to immediately like fix a situation and not go through the emotions that you were feeling, you're not going to be able to validate, appreciate, or for anything, because you're just going to be minimizing your emotional response. So like what I like to say is like, my mom will get angry and she's like, Abigail, I hope you don't like do this like to all your friends. And I was like, no, mom, I need 5 minutes of complaining. 5 minutes about being really upset that something just happened, and then after it, okay, now let me figure out what I need to do about it. And I think making sure that with your friends and yourself personally go through that. So like, for example, like when I work with kids, like I'll get down to their level and be like, I'm so sorry you're feeling this way. I know this is a big deal to you. Because like to them, they're 6 years old, this is their whole world. They have only really had the hardships of really not having a correct placement. So getting down to their level, like that's gonna be easy folks now because you know we're all basically tall and not small human beings. And talking to them like, yes, I know that this is really hard. Like this is a big deal to you, and I know this is a big deal to you, and I'm sorry that this is happening.
Which is part of validating, right?
Yeah, it's
That's
part of
what
validating, but it's making sure that you're letting them have that immediate emotional response. Because sometimes when you're having these conversations, that immediate emotional response is already passed. And you need to validate that it did happen versus validating that this is happening. And I think they're slightly different, and you can go about them in different ways, because if you start talking about like, oh, that was really hard as it's happening, that's different than this is really difficult. And when you're saying this is really difficult, I think that creates a better connection in the current moment, because you're letting them know that you're understanding this is happening right now.
I think that's goes back to like why the hard last, like the hard last, because like your immediate response is really, oh, I think you should go read this. Like you are there in the moment for them, like you need to take advantage of the time you have with them. And then after that, once that moment has passed, then this response, then talk about what to do with the next steps.
Does anyone else have any other questions about this? Again, it's very simple. It's made to be a half-hour deal, so we can get it to as many people as possible. Obviously, here are a bunch of lines that people can talk to. I think the text lines are really important because it's a lot harder to speak it sometimes than it is to write it. And obviously the counseling center and the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and then the Nanny Helpline is not used as often as some of the other ones, and I personally love the Nanny Helpline. They have a lot of really, really good resources, like when you call them too.
Did you have other questions to pose to the group?
We have other ones if you want to keep going, but.
Yeah, I mean, we're here. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
I guess like one that I find interesting, like there's not a right answer. It's not really a right answer for any of these, but like why is it difficult to have these conversations, or I guess like mental health conversations in general, and what kind of things?
It's really tough to willingly go forward direct. That kind of already has uncomfortable is one step and a large aspect of talking about mental health. I think additionally there's this like self, but also group image that sort of becomes threatened, like relationally threatened, where you know if you admit to something, it makes you feel like you're lesser than or whatever other negative connotations get chipped away from you if you were to share what you wanted to share. Yeah, I think a large part of the difficulties that people face when wanting to even consider talking or expressing something out loud is how it's really perceived by others. And I think a lot of it, you don't really think about how you yourself are going to feel after the fact because you're so, I guess, caught up with what other people.
I wanted to share the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, being more comfortable for like the time being, because I guess I'll end with this. The time in which you're like uncomfortable is really unnecessary.
Do you just want me to go to the chat?
But like, then there's once the wave crashes, and it's all
I think another part of this book is like depending on how you identify, certain people are more likely to go ask for help than others. In the most basic of terms, those identified female are more likely to go get help and say that something is wrong versus those identified male, or non-binary, they are way less likely to go and ask for help. But who's talking about in these conversations right now? Like the ratio of people who are willing to talk about it is still extremely skewed due to stigmatization of the past. And I think we are definitely moving like in the right direction personally. But you know, male sports teams, for example, like they are not as likely to go through this type of training as someone on a female sports team, just because of stigmatization of that. And I think that's something that like we've been combating for a really long time. You know, we said 1 in 5 adults experience mental illness, but women are more likely to, like, I think it's like 60% more likely to go ask for help. And I think that, like, that hurts a lot because you're leaving a lot of people behind that really need all these types of resources. So I think that's something that it's difficult, and depending on like where you are in college, and obviously mental health resources are scarce no matter where you go, which is also a hard thing to deal with. But when people aren't even asking when they need to, that really does not bode well for everyone having these conversations.
I think for me, it's a very stat like finding about the genders was that when you're talking about suicide, the scariest thing is that men are affected that there's like 4 times more likely to actually commit suicide and attempt to be successful than for women, even though women are more likely to have an attempt. So that's a little bit scary.
Just looking at the chat, maybe also reminding people to feel their feelings. We don't have to solve or figure anything out right now. Mix of validating and reminding that there's no crisis. So again, validating it, kind of referring it. I think something they talked about that's really important in the video is that you do not need to do it in order. You do not need to validate, appreciate, and refer exactly in that order every single time. Sometimes it starts with referring. Sometimes it's like someone comes to you and is like, I need to go talk to someone. And you say, okay, you can talk to me, but I'm not a professional. Let's go find you someone to help. I know you need to do this right now. And then you appreciate that they came to you and you validate that you're happy they came to you because you knew they needed to talk to someone. So don't think that this needs to be a 1, 2, 3 step process. And don't think that this 1, 2, 3 step process needs to happen in one conversation either. Sometimes it takes a lot of validating and appreciating to get to the referring part. So there's no timeline on any of this either. Does anyone have any questions? This is something that we have been trying to implement on campus for approximately 3 years now, but COVID kind of ruined that a little bit. And it's quick, so you can definitely show it to a lot of clubs. And getting like the whole campus to kind of be involved in this, I think is a great start as well. So yeah.
Have you done any work with faculty?
We tried, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been a little bit more difficult to get this implemented.
Yeah.
We were going to start with like South and then like work on coaches and then move that way. There's a stat that people are more likely to go to their coach or than their parent when it comes to things. So we thought that maybe starting with someone who is in a position of authority that probably doesn't have a lot of resources at their disposal, give them that information first. And then I think it can kind of trickle because obviously in all of our syllabus, so all of our classes, the professors put in their syllabus, like, oh, like here's all the mental health resources. Meanwhile, the coaches don't have syllabus. So they have no idea normally where to go. So giving them that information to start with is probably a really good idea.
So Catherine asks, any tips for starting these conversations like in a normal way that happens often, like a check-in, which I think that's really relevant to the PACs too, because you're meeting on an ongoing basis.
Maybe if someone says something like, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now, or they saying it's not alarming, but it's very, like, it shows some sort of like no concern. My next kind of stuff, I feel like I'm not validate, like, oh, like understand why you're there. Well, right now. That conversation does. And as we mentioned earlier, like even if it's like a small thing, referring doesn't have to be something like, oh, you should go to the wellness center because you're going to go. It can be something as simple as saying, follow up with them, knowing, so like they know you're a resource for them and that you are there for them. Especially it's like someone who.
There's definitely more of a responsive like protocol, I would call it, for lack of a better term. Starting a conversation can look so different to so many people. It can start as, oh, I'm really overwhelmed. It can start as, I'm having a really hard time. It can start as, I need to speak to someone. And I think everyone goes about it a little differently. So there's really like no cookie cutter way to say, this is how you should start a conversation. But I personally like to like text, like, oh, hey, like, you just want to go get coffee. And then normally that opens up the conversation enough for that person to feel as though they can come talk to you. And if it doesn't, you have already just made your connection to them a little tighter as well. So in the future, they can feel more comfortable doing that too. So I think just for very simple, like being a good friend and just like showing them that you're there for them, not only in times of like crisis, but other times when everything's going well too, gives them the comfort and confidence that they can go to you other times as well.
When someone is like, you've talked to somebody and they've confided in something difficult, and then you see them again and they're not bringing it up again, do you have suggestions? Because that's how like things happen with me. I see someone again, a student again, and then I want to check in on what we talked about last time without dwelling on it or whatever, bringing up the past. So do you have suggestions on how to check back in with that last conversation? Does that make sense?
Do any of you guys have anything you think?
Julia?
My friends just kind of like, depending on their personality, I'll just like quick thumbs up, yes, no, and they'll just tell me and I'll get all right. And then for other people where I feel like it's just like more sensitive kind of approach, something I always say, but I always say, feel free to tell me as much or as little as you feel comfortable with. Just know I'm here, doesn't have to be now, but just grab my number sort of thing. So it's just like a quick self-made script that I've made. So like it lets them know that they have me if anything now and just ongoing. They can share what they want, but what they want is up to them.
Mm-hmm.
I can confirm Julie's doing a good job with this. Yeah, like you summarize it, it's like all or nothing thing. Like it's not they have to say everything that's going on, everything that they've done, but maybe they just feel like everything's someone's doing better, someone's doing worse, or oh yeah, like I've taken care of it kind of thing.
It doesn't even have to be anything at all, but like just that reminder of like when you can share what you want, if you want, and then as much or as little as you want sort of thing.
Do you guys have any ways that you do that as PACs?
Yeah, I mean, I usually start my meetings off with a quick check-in, and for most people. Especially if something new kind of popped up in the previous meeting, I like touch on it vaguely, like, oh, hey, I know we talked about some social stressors you experienced last week. How do you think about that? I didn't even provide as much detail as they wanted, but if you said, oh, I'm totally fine now.
Yeah, I'm a big like pass by going deal because it shows that like I remember that something happened, but I don't want to bring it up to them if they're not ready to continue talking about it. Like on softball, I will literally just like walk by and be like, I don't know, okay, and then we'll deal with it later because there are times and place to talk about all of these things as well. So like sometimes in a group setting, like people won't want to talk about it and they want to talk about it later. But by opening up the conversation, saying, I know we did talk about this, then you can kind of like bring it up later if necessary. You want to have anything else?
I was just typing what everyone was saying.
Okay.
I think this is not the best model for a workshop like this.
Yeah, I mean, we have this presentation now that we can give /share /whatever. It has the video and they have the link to the video now. The video does a pretty good job, like quick way explaining it. So if that's something you need to show smaller groups of people, I suggest doing that. And yeah, thank you guys for listening. Thanks for coming and being willing to learn about this. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. Oh, there's one message. Hold on. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.